President, please be seated. The court is back in session, and the floor is now given to the defense teams to put questions to the civil party. And please wait, the defense team, because Judge Lavenge have some question for this civil party. You may now proceed.
Oui, merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Madam Civil Party. I have just one question for you. This morning, you stated that you noted that people disappeared on the 1st January dam work site. Can you tell us whether those disappearances occurred frequently? Did many people disappear?
Answer. My colleagues were working together. Not many of them disappeared. Mostly male workers were told that they had to go to work in a new place, or sometimes they required to have these male workers to work with other forces in other work sites. And as I said, mostly male workers disappeared.
Et si vous vous souvenez des personnes,
and if you do remember the persons who thus disappeared, can you tell us whether those persons were members of the 17 April group or they were base people?
Answer. They were 17 April people. They were mostly adult. I used to see them, but later on they were told that they need to go to work in other places. As for unit chiefs, they were still there, and female unit chiefs were also there. At the outset, the disappearance did not occur much, but later in 1977, there was much disappearance of people.
ce matin, vous avez également parlé.
This morning, you also talked about working conditions. You talked of clothes that were so frayed that they became like rags. And you also talked about difficulties you had in repairing them. Please tell us, were you also provided with shoes on that work site?
Answer. No, we were not given shoes. I did not receive any shoes. After we left our home, we had some things to barter for shoes, but the shoes were made out of tires, rubber. And new people, many of new people did not have shoes to wear, and mostly they were wearing only tattered clothes. When I arrived at the 1st January dam site, I was given a set of clothes. And when I was living in the village, I was told that since my mother had clothing for me to wear, I was not given any clothing. And we also have had hats, and the cone hats. And my mother took that cone hat and combined with a piece of cloth, the raincoat, the sheet from raincoat, and we could wear it, and cannot get wet during the raining time.
Je vous remercie beaucoup, madame.
Thank you very much, madam. I have no further questions for you.
បាទអរគុណជាបន្តនេះផ្ដល់វេទិកាជូនទៅក្រុមវិទ្យាការពីក្តីលោក
President, now I give the floor to the defense team for Mr. Nuanjia to put questions to this civil party. You may now proceed, Mr. Kope.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors, Counsel. Good afternoon, Madam Civil Party. I have a few questions for you, not very many. My first question to you is about your civil party application of 26 March 2010, D22/2531/1. In this civil party application, you speak about the events between 75 and 79. You also speak about locations where alleged crimes were committed. However, I noted that you didn't mention the 1st January dam work site as a crime site. As a matter of fact, you didn't mention the 1st January dam at all. Do you remember what the reason was that back in 2010, when you filed your form, you didn't mention that you had worked at the 1st January dam work site?
Answer. In my statement, I did not put everything in it because I was told to give a brief statement. Actually, there were many other incidents such as lack of food, lack of gruel, etc. And I was asked about the 1st January dam site, so I made my statement in that document that I was there at the 1st January dam site for 3 months. And in fact, in addition to that information, I witnessed some killings as well. On one particular night, they were about to take me away to be killed, but I was lucky on that day. But my colleague who was staying close to my place was taken away and killed.
Thank you, Madam Civil Party. In your supplementary information form or story, which is dated 22nd of April 2014, and which is E307/616, you do speak about your work at the 1st January dam site. We note that this is about 2 weeks or 3 weeks after what we call the severance decision, in which it was decided that we would speak about the 1st January dam. Did somebody approach you and ask you to file a supplementary information form and this time speak about your work at the 1st January dam?
Answer. Actually, at that time, I was told to go and meet a lawyer in Tulkok neighborhood. And I was given a piece of paper relating to perhaps cases 03 or 04, and I was asked about the 1st January dam site. I was asked about that matter later on.
Thank you, Madam Civil Party. I would like now to go back to your testimony of this morning. If I understood your testimony correctly, you said that it was you who decided to go work at the 1st January dam. Do you you remember at the time what your parents thought of this? Did they agree with you volunteering to work at the 1st January dam, or were they against it?
Answer. They disagreed. They wanted me to work in my village. But there was information in the unit that they needed forces to work at Tribunal and 1st January dam sites. And I asked them what I had to do at the 1st January dam site, and I was told that I had to carry earth. I did not want to go to work in the farm because I was afraid of the worm. That is why I decided to go to work at the 1st January dam site. I decided to go because I wanted them to consider that I sacrificed to work at that place, and my family would be spared.
Do you remember whether your parents were upset that you ignored their advice, and notwithstanding their negative advice, you went to the 1st January dam anyway? Were they upset?
Answer. They were not happy, but my older siblings consoled them that if I did not go at this time, I would have to go later on. During that time, I decided to go because I wanted to work there, and I observed that the situation was becoming worse. Everyone in the village decided to go to work because they were afraid of the saying that keeping is no gain, taking away is no loss if one did not go to work. And as I said, during that period, they needed the active people to go and work.
Thank you. This morning you also said that people thought at the time that you were in fact too young to go to work at the 1st January dam worksite. Do you remember who these people were who thought that and told you this?
Answer. Many of them, and people were saying I was too young. Why I decided to go and work in the mobile unit? I was considered a young child at that time. I did not know how to swim, but I decided to go and work there. Even I knew that we had to travel by boat to reach that work site. And as I said earlier, I wanted to go and carry earth rather than to work in the field because I was afraid of worms in the field.
I understand, but do you remember concretely who it was that said that you were too young? Were these people from your village? Do you remember who told you this?
Answer. Base villagers knew my parent, and 17 April people also mentioned about me. Most of the time, I could speak to the 17 April people. I was not courageous enough to speak with base people. Many adults spoke about me, about the time that I decided to go and work.
Do you remember whether your parents complained to the village chief about you volunteering to go to work at the 1st January dam work site?
Answer: no, they did not complain.
Now, Madam Civil Party, have some questions, additional questions about the working conditions at the dam site. Some witnesses have come to this trial chamber and sat in the same chair as where you are sitting and testified that the lunch break on an average day was between 11 and 1 or between 11 and 2 o'clock. Is that a correct testimony from these witnesses, or what is your reaction, please?
Answer: I did not have watch. I do not recall it. Actually, we heard the bell ringing when there was a break time for lunch. Lunch break was very short. After we had lunch and drink water, we returned to work. It was a short break. I did not have watch and I did not have time. I did not usually take a nap during that time.
Is it correct that the bell for the lunch break was not only for the workers in your unit, but for all the workers at the dam, for everybody who worked there?
President, please give your response. You have not given the response yet. Answer: yes, that is true.
Some witnesses also testified before the chamber and said that there was a break in the morning session. So between around 7 and 11, people would work, and in the middle of that morning session there would be a 15-minute break. Is that also your recollection?
Answer: I am not sure. Normally, I went to fetch and collect the water. Perhaps it was during that time, the time that I went to collect water, it was a break time. I recalled only the break time for lunch and the break time in the evening.
Thank you. About working in the evening or at night, there are witnesses who are saying that working at night was not frequent, was occasional, and one witness testified that working at night was only done when the moon was waxing, therefore once a month. Is that your recollection as well?
Answer: from my recollection, during the time which the moon was not waxing, they would use the torch, and they burn the torch to light the work site, and we worked at.
But was night work occasional or was it frequent?
Answer: I do not recall it well. it was night time. I went to work. The older colleagues would tell me that there was no break time at night, and when we were asked to be in full swing, we would work until 10 p.m. For example, there would be sometime a quota for us to complete in 1 month, so we had to be active during that time.
Your answer brings me to my next subject, and that is the matter of quota. You said that for you there weren't any specific quota, but do you remember whether your group had quota in the sense of X amount of cubic meters per day had to be dug at the time? Do you remember any specific number of cubic meters?
Answer. I do not recall it well. I do not recall the amount of dirt that we were required to complete. I was so young at that time, and as I said, I was told to fetch water for workers on some occasion. I do not recall how many cubic meters was required for one worker to complete.
This morning you spoke about, I believe it was the group chief, Singh, yes. Did you ever hear him make threats to workers?
Answer. He only encouraged us to work. He never met. He's never made any strong threats, but we were told to work hard in our assignment. There were no beatings by him, and no fatal accidents occurred at the 1st January dam site.
You also spoke about workers in your group or unit who got sick, who were allowed to go back to the village to be taken care of, and that these people didn't come back because it was only 3 months. Do you know whether within your group workers were rotated or were replaced by other workers from your village? Or was your group always the same composition in those 3 months?
Answer. No, I have never noticed any such rotation. And for the sick, they would be sent to the villages and treated.
You said also this morning that the food that you and your co-workers ate while working at the dam site was brought from your village. Do you remember who organized the transport of this food? Who was responsible for bringing the food from your village to the work site?
Answer. The one who transported the food was in my village. He was in charge of economy, and he was the one who transported rice and food supplies to the work sites.
And do you recall whether he did that every day, or every other day, or maybe twice per day? Do you remember?
Answer. He did not transport food supplies quite often. He would transport food supplies every 4 to 10 days. It was not too frequent that he transported those food supplies. Sometimes he would bring those foods 2 weeks after another.
Did he also bring other things than food from the village to your group or unit? Things that you or your colleagues had asked for, things like clothes or mosquito nets, that kind of things, or did he only bring food?
Answer. I do not know about this matter. I only knew that he transported food supplies. Whether he brought along other materials, it is beyond my understanding.
And when somebody felt sick and had to be taken care of in the village, did this sick person travel back with this man who had brought the food, or was that a separate means of having this sick person transported back to the village?
Answer. Mostly the sick would be brought to the villages with the one who was in charge of transporting food supplies. And in other work sites, the sick would be put on the same carts used by the transporter of food supplies.
This morning you also said that you believed that the medic who had given you medicine when you yourself felt sick was not well trained. Do you remember why you thought at the time that this medic was not well trained?
Answer. I know about it because the medic did not know how to treat the sick. There was no blood test, and if one happens to get dysentery or diarrhea, that person would be given the rabbit trapping medicine, and those medic were children of base people. Actually, these people, I mean the medics, would perhaps receive some short training how to give injection or how to give a medicine, and this medic did not know how to read and write. So mostly they were illiterate.
Do you know anything about the training or medical backgrounds in terms of education of the medics who were working at the district hospitals or at this hospital in the pagoda that you were speaking about this morning? Do you know anything about their background?
Answer. They were not actual. There were no medics, the modern medics at the hospital, in the hospital at the pagoda. Mostly they were traditional healers. I knew one person, Tamon. He would boil the herbal medicines and give to the patient. And as for the liquid, as I said, there was a liquid in the bottle, and the liquid would be used to give injection for the patient. There were no proper clothing for those medics. They wore black clothing.
nevertheless correct when I say that when you were sick, you were given medical treatment, good or not, but it wasn't withheld to you because you were a new person. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. However, the medicine that was given to us was not effective.
My last set of questions, Madam Civil Party, that is about your father and about the husband of your sister. You said that you didn't know the rank, the military rank of your father. But was it known to the village chief that he had served in the Lonol army before 1975?
Maybe the village chief did not know about his position as nobody spoke about it, and we all didn't reveal her position through the village chief.
Maybe I didn't understand your testimony correctly, but I wrote down this morning that you said that everyone knew your father's position. When you said that, did that imply that they knew, that everyone knew that he had been a Lonol military?
Maybe they suspected him, but they didn't know for sure. Chon one day interrogated me about my father's position, and I said he didn't do anything. He was a merchandise and he works in the rice field. And that's what was written in the biography. However, as for my brother and the brother-in-law, they searched his belongings and they found the military uniform in his backpack. And it was rather frequent at the time that they conducted a search by searching through our belongings, looking for any clues linking to any enemy, and the search was conducted village-wide. My father was a hard-working man, and he worked very hard, and in order not to allow them to have any suspicion on him. However, he also knew how to treat the people, but he didn't reveal about what he knew on the treatment. Nobody knew that he could treat the people, and I believe that they only had a suspicion on him.
And what about your brother-in-law? When did they do the searches and found out that he had been a pilot in the Lonol army?
I did not know, because a few days after they got married, I was assigned to work at Stung Chinata River, that is at the first January Dam work site. So I did not know the details about what happened back at the village. I only heard from others regarding what happened, and I didn't have a full account of the event.
But is it correct that both your father and the husband of your sister had worked in the village right after the liberation of 1975?
After the liberation On the 17th April 1975, they worked in a rice field as other villagers. That was per the instructions by the Khmer rules.
If their identity as former Lonol military, if that wasn't known for 2 years, do you know if someone within the village betrayed them to the village chief or to Angkar or to the authorities?
That is a possibility, but I cannot say for sure. Initially, my elder brother-in-law and my elder sibling were taken away and killed, and it was my parents who actually made a request to live with my elder siblings. And that was the first time on the 21st in July 77 when my siblings and family members were killed. And at that time, my mother did not know that my other sister was killed. And as she was instructed to relocate to another village, she requested to accompany my other sister since she was pregnant. And she also requested to have my parent to come along. He was at a plantation at Bang Ray, which was about 2 or 3 communes away. It is my understanding that they did not suspect the position or the role of my father in the previous regime, but he might be the victim of the position of my elder brother-in-law.
Thank you very much, Madam Civil Party. My national colleague, Mr. President, has a few questions as well.
President, yes, Council, you may proceed. Council, thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. President, Your Honors, and everyone. And good afternoon, Madam Civil Party. My name is Liu Sawana. I am a Defense Counsel for Nonji's Defense. And I only have a few questions for you to seek for your clarification. A while ago, you said that people were taken away from the work site as they were told to relocate the work at other work sites. And can you tell the chamber at which work site did this happen? Answer, it happened at the first injury work site, although there were only a few cases there, and it happened at other work sites, if you allow me to expand. Question, you said that people were transferred to work elsewhere, and my question to you is, at which work site that this happened? President, Madam Civil Party, please observe the microphone. Answer, you asked me a question in relation to the first injury dam work site, and that happened at that work site. Question, I'd like to have a clear clarification since you worked at various work sites and your statement that some workers were relocated to work at other work sites. Did your observation happen at the first injury dam work site or at another work site? Answer, there were many work sites, namely the first injury dam work site, and only a few cases happened there. However, at រំលំភ្នៅគុកមលូវាលសួង and កោះស website people disappeared and in some instances I knew for sure that they had been killed. However, I am not sure what happened to those workers who were relocated from the first January Dam work site. And at Rolum Pneu, as I said earlier, a woman who stayed next to me was taken away by an ox cart. And she was killed. And I was the target of being killed too, as I was the only remaining member of my family. However, unfortunately, the lady next to me was taken away and killed. Question. You stated this morning that you felt unconscious once while working, and can you please tell the chamber at which work site did this happen? Answer, it was at the first January Dam work site. Question. You also said after after you felt unconscious, then you were taken away for a treatment, and after a few days you returned to work. Did you return to work voluntarily, or were you forced to return to work? Answer, I was asked by the group chief whether I was able to work, and I said yes, I could work, so I returned. Council, thank you, Madam Civil Party, and thank you, Mr. President. I am done. President, thank you. The chamber now hands the floor to the defense team for Kieu Sampon. You may proceed, Council.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Madam Singh Sobida. I am Antagise. I am the International Co-Counsel for Kieu Sampon, so I have a few very brief questions to you so that you can clarify your testimony. This morning you said that when you arrived to work on the 1 January dam, you first were assigned to a place that was not far from your sleeping quarters. You said it was about 1 or 2 kilometers away. So my question is, how long did you stay over the 3-month period when you were there? How long did you stay at that particular place, which was about 1 or 2 kilometers away from where you would sleep?
It was about a month until that building was completed.
So, if I understand clearly what you said, you worked for 1 month in that particular place, and during the 2 other months, you worked somewhere that was a little bit more distant. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And again, in order to try to understand clearly what you said this morning, I believe I understood that you started working on the dam somewhere in February, and you said you worked there for 3 months, and I believe I heard from your testimony that you said that you left around the Khmer New Year. So my question is, was it before or after the Khmer New Year that you left the dam site?
I said I went to the first January dam work site either in January or February, since I cannot recall it correctly, and I returned home after the Khmer New Year, and it is possible that I return at the end of April or in May of that year, and that my family members had been killed already when I returned. However, I can confirm that I worked for a total period of 3 months at the dam site.
Now, another point of clarification with regard to what you said this morning about the 1 January dam site. You said that the place where you would eat wasn't far from the site where you would work. And you also spoke about containers in which they would boil water. So my question is the following. Was this water that people boiled used only for your group, from your village group, or was this water going to be used by all of the groups that you worked with on the work site? So just like the food, was it the unit chief who was in charge of distributing the water, or was it more general? Was the water given to the other units as well?
It was a general water for workers' consumption, and it was boiled in a large cooking pot, not in a water boiling kettle. And the water was boiled by various groups. For example, in our group, we boiled the water for our own group of consumption, and it happens to other groups.
Another aspect I'd like to react to with regard to the organization of the groups. I understood that when you arrived, there were about 10 people per village. So my question is, in the place you worked, were you still working on a village base? So in your group, therefore, there were only about 10 people, or were there other people from other villages?
At that time, the village workforce were combined with the other forces from the villages under the commune, and then we worked under the district. So there were quite a number of workers in terms of all the workforces from the villages under the one commune, for example, the Saikaiwa commune. And that's how it happened. And I can only speak about what happened under my village and the commune. And you can say that usually the workforce would be organized per commune under the district.
Thank you, Madam Savida. I have no further questions, Mr. President. I believe my colleague has a short extra question to put, and then we will be done.
President, thank you. And Councillor Kung Samon, you have the floor. Kung Samon, thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honours, and good afternoon, Madam Civil Party. I have a quick question regarding your testimony and your response to Judge Lavan's question on the issue of disappearance. You said that more disappearance happened after 1977, and you just also said that people disappeared at the first Evidentiary Dam work site, although there were only a few cases, and more similar cases happened at other work sites. My question to you is the following. Do you know when the first Evidentiary Dam work site started? and when it was completed. Of course, you told the court that you started working there, and then you continued working there for 3 months. But I want to know about when it was started and when it was completed. Answer. I do not know when the construction work started, since when I arrived, there had been workers there, and when I left, the construction work was not yet completed. And there were workers there from Barai, Tangkuk, and other nearby communes, continued working while I returned to my village. So to briefly answer your question, I am not sure. Question. Did you return to the village only by yourself, or your entire unit from the village returned? Answer. All the workforce in the district returned. Question. You also said that you volunteered to sacrifice yourself to work at the first January Dam work site, as you believed it would assist the tense condition of situation within your family, as you considered going to work in the hot zone or hot battlefield would assist in this matter. Can you tell the court, did you make that decision when you was around 11 or 12 years old at the time? Answer. I thought that the group chief and the village chief seems to actually oppress the 17 April people in terms of working condition. And we, the Phnom Penh city dwellers, were being asked about our background. And I was with the children of the best people, and I learned some additional information. And I learned that we, the 17 April people, hate to work hard, otherwise we will be sent or transferred to work further and more intensive, far away from the village with little food distribution. So when I took into account these factors, and also from what I saw on the beating up of a man named Lee Tong, who was in a mobile unit, and I was afraid that they beat up a person in terms of the working condition and due to his half-blood Chinese background. I was told that actually he was taken away to be killed and buried under a tree. However, for some reason he survived, and the killer was Chong. And I learned various other information from people in the village. And based on the information and from what happened to this man, I came up with that decision, and allow me to continue. An elder brother-in-law of my sister-in-law, who was in a mobile unit, and he knew that my other sister was about to get married, so he gave her a scarf as a souvenir, and later on we learned that he had been killed in a nearby village. Questioned. And what you said regarding the event Can you recall in which year it happened? Answer. It happened around early 1977 before I left for the first Indian work site. As when I returned, I only stayed for 3 days at the village. Question. You were told secretly about this event, and can you recall actually who told you that? And that you had to work harder in the village, otherwise you would be sent to work elsewhere, far away from the village. Answer. I was told about the tense condition and situation in the village, and it was my own thinking that if I were to work hard far away from the village, then my family members would be safe. And I understood that in my family, my parents were old, and I was the main person with strength to work and to assist the family. And if I did not go to work at the dam sites, then I would be sent to work elsewhere anyway. Counsel. My question to you is in relation to the name of person who told you about working hard, or that you had to sacrifice to work hard. Answer. I can not recall the name. However, I spoke to children of the best people, and some of them are still alive. And I was told not only by one child, but by many children. Question. You mean children of your peer? Answer. Yes. Question. The man Lee Tong that you mentioned, what happened to him? Did it happen in your cooperative? Answer. It happened in my village. Question. Can you please tell the coordinate name of the village? Answer. It was Risaikavle. Counsel. Mr. President, I'm done. President, thank you. Madam Sing Solida, now you are at the end of your testimony, and you are given an opportunity to make a statement of impact regarding the facts alleged against the two accused, Nuon Chea and Khieu Samphan, in relation to what happened to you during the Democratic Cambodia regime, and that led you to file a civil party application and to claim for moral and collective reparations in terms of the damages that happened to you physically and emotionally or materially, in terms of what happened to you. And if you wish to do so, you have the floor. Civil Party. Mr. President, may I ask questions? President, you cannot put the question directly through the accused. However, you can put your question through us, the bench. Civil Party. I'd like to put a question through Mr. President of the trial chamber. The Khmer Rouge leader made a propaganda that they wanted to save the nation and to save the people. However, upon gaining the victory, they did the contrary. They massacred their own people. They forced their own people to work, and they deprived their own people of food. And they considered their people as their enemies. And it is my belief that they consider the 17 April people as the enemy, and I want to know why they did that, and for what purpose, and for what gain. And I'd like them to answer in details about the reasoning behind this, so that the young Cambodian and the next generation will understand their motive. And this will also enlighten the people as it bring out the truth. And it will also be the truth for the victims, including my parents and siblings and relatives who died during the regime. I'd like them to tell us the truth and not any more lies. They kept saying that they did not know about what happened, and that what happened was done by the lower cadres. Do you mean that you, who were at the upper level, did not have any authority at all during the regime? You did not control the country at all? Please tell us the truth. Tell us what happened. And this is part of the Cambodian history, so that the young generation can understand. And I'd like a library be built in order to contain any documents relating to what happened during the Khmer Rouge regime, as well as the archives of the proceedings in this court since case 001. As this is one of the, as in the world there has not been a similar case that people kill their own people. I think it might be a personal revenge that they killed the people from Phnom Penh. Not everyone wanted to live in Phnom Penh. If you can imagine, in Phnom Penh, air bombardment happened almost every day at a time. We didn't have a proper chance to go to school regularly. And there were some people who worked for the former colonial regimes, or who were military officers, also actually joined or assist those who worked for the revolution, as they provided secret information to the Khmer Rouge side. And my father, he never committed any wrongdoing, and I want justice for him. And I want them to tell the truth as soon as possible, because they are very old now, before it is too late. And I want the truth to be told by them, so that the victims can hear it and hear the truth in this court. We all were delighted when this court was established. And initially I was very angry when I heard about Khmer Rouge leaders were being detained at this court. I wanted to kill them as a revenge, because they were the ones that led me through misery, led me to lose my family members and beloved parents. They claimed that they did not know what happened at the upper level, why they didn't go down to the base to observe firsthand as to what happened. If you were leaders of the country, it is similar as you are the custodians in a family. You should know what's going on in your family. My father spoke of Khieu Samphan when he was alive. He said after the end of the Israel regime, he wanted to actually flee into the forest to join the movement. But in the end, I don't understand what happened. And by 1970, Prince Chan Yang-sei allowed him to stay behind in the barracks to take control and to manage the finance. And they, the leaders, they should know about the well-being and about the living condition of their own people. And if they do not know anything about that, what were they doing at the upper level? For them, they didn't lose their family member, but for us, I lost family members. and it was a great misery for us. If someone lose a family member, maybe we could only express our condolence. But if it happens to your family, your feeling is much, much different. In fact, after the fall of Phnom Penh, I was asked to join the military, and I wanted to do so, to take revenge. I loved my parents very much. If I could exchange the position, then I would rather die so that my parents could live. I did everything. I sacrificed everything during the Khmer Rouge regime in order to help my family. I do not want anything from anyone. I just want myself to relieve from the pain of losing my parents. And my father always advised me not to take revenge against the revenge or the bad deed that happened. I have been keeping thinking about this, and it keeps going in circle. And I try myself to be busy and not to think about that. But still, my mind is occupied constantly with what happened. Every day, my tear flows. And sometimes I was observed by my son when I was weeping quietly in my room. And I urge them to tell the truth, and not just to give a lies or pretext to lies. We all born, and of course one day we will die. And if you love the nation, love the people, please allow the Cambodian younger generations to understand the truth, to understand the history of what happened. And I beg you to tell the truth. And you should know that you are lucky to be detained here. Your life is not as misery as what happened to us. Here, you are living in a controlled, comfortable environment with aircon, with a proper food regime. And the only thing that I want from you is simply the truth. Whether you were in a position and you did not have the authority at all during the regime. And that is all what I want to know. President, Madam Civil Party Sieng Solidar, we would like to inform you that after ascertaining the position of both accused on 8 January 2015 regarding the exercise of the right to remain silent, the Chamber notes that the two accused maintained their express position unless and until such time the Chamber is expressly informed otherwise by the co-accused or their counsels. It is therefore incumbent upon them to inform the Chamber in a timely and efficient manner should the accused resolve to waive the right to remain silent and be willing to respond to questions by the bench or relevant parties at any stage of the proceedings. As of today, the Chamber is not informed that the co-accused have changed their express position and thus agreed to provide their responses to questions. President, the hearing of the testimony of Civil Party Sieng Solidar is now concluded, and the Chamber will commence hearing the testimony of another Civil Party, that is 2TCCP 804, 2TCW rather. And Madam Civil Party, the Chamber is grateful of your testimony as a Civil Party. It is now concluded and you are no longer required to be here at the courtroom. Therefore, you may return to wherever you wish to go to. And Counsel for Civil Party, what's on your mind?
Je me permets d'intervenir.
I wish to intervene in this last minute, Mr. President, because I know Mrs. Sarida has prepared a long testimony on suffering, and I'm not sure she has presented all that she wanted to present. So may I request your leave, Mr. President, to once more ask her whether she has indeed presented all her sufferings, because she had envisaged reading a document in which she detailed all the harm she suffered during the Democratic Kampuchea regime. I have the impression that after putting questions to the accused, she cut short her presentation and didn't read out what she had intended to read. So I would request you, Mr. President, to give her a chance to read out what she has prepared, if time allows. Thank you.
President, the Chamber had given the floor to the civil party, and she actually spent some time putting questions to the Chamber, to the accused through the Chamber. And Madam Civil Party, if you wish to make another statement, you have the floor.
Civil Party, I have given many responses already in the mornings, and what I am planning to make the last statement before the Chamber reflects what I have given already, but I would like to make a brief statement before the Chamber. I already spoke about the evacuation when I left Phnom Penh and reached Risay Kao. I wanted to mention about the mistreatment happening on my family at Risay Kao. My father realized that the civil servant and intellectual were identified. We told them that my father was a merchandise, and we were in the field. I feel so pitied on my father because he was mistreated. When my father fell sick, when he reached Risay Kao, he fell sick. It was in 1976. My elder sibling and I went to Steng Thom worksite, and I was told by a person on the outskirts that my father was ill. I made a request, and two of us made a request, but only one of us was allowed to visit my father. I encountered suffering the most when he was taken away and killed. I would like to make a brief statement. My elder sister Sieng could witness the killing, and she went to the killing site to observe the incident. My people were killed, their belongings were confiscated. In 2000, I went to join the ceremony, and Kim and Kom survived the period. He witnessed the incident about the killing, and I was told that there were two people surviving the period. I really want to know about the killing of my father. I really want to see the two individuals who witnessed the killing of my father. I do not want to waste the court time. I have the same sufferings as Cambodian people have had. I do not feel well when I am mentioning and stating about the sufferings. We have encountered the same sufferings. I would like to skip some points. I endure sufferings, very huge sufferings, after I returned to live in Phnom Penh. My children always asked me why I am not happy all the time, and I told my children that how could I be happy because I have lost my beloved relatives and parents. I do not want to go on, Mr. President, because I feel like I am going to collapse when mentioning about the experience I have went through. I was mentally, morally tortured because everything happened on my parents and my siblings. So I would like to conclude my last statement because I do not want to go on. I feel unwell, Mr. President. President, thank you very much. Madam Sieng Sovida, you may return to your residence or your desired destination. I wish you good health and best wishes. Court officer, please work with vessels to send Madam Sieng Sovida to her residence or desired destination. The chamber would like to express its sincere thanks to Madam Sivipati and Wanara, the TVO staff, who has been sitting all day during the time that the civil party has testified. You may also be accused, Ms. Nara. The court will take a short break, and we will resume at 10 and at 3:10. And when we resume, we will hear 2TCW 804. The court is now in recess.